seventh day, the big boss ordained it. Rest after grind, no cross can replace it. Messiah showed the blueprint, the steps ain't outdated. Man tweaking rules while the truth stand unshaken. Sabbath ain't a fad, it's a covenant sacred. They flipped the script, but the command, he engraved it. Echoes from Sinai can't be manipulated. The seventh still holds, never traded or negated. Sunday hype was man-made innovation, but the seventh is divine, set apart in creation. Follow the lamb, not the denomination. Imitate the king, no need for translation. Calendars flip, but his word stays eternal. Earth spins round, still the timing is internal. From dusk to dusk, it's spiritual and verbal. Sabbath rest hits like lyrics that are fertile. Sabbath ain't a fad, it's a covenant sacred. They flipped the script, but the command, he engraved it. Echoes from Sinai can't be manipulated. The seventh still holds, never traded or negated. Traditions got him tripping, blindfolds heavy, but the path Messiah walked is the truth. Hold steady, not my law, but his, engraved on forever's levy. Sabbath on the seventh, truth flows like a levee. Ain't a fad, it's a covenant sacred. They flipped the script, but the command, he engraved it. Echoes from Sinai can't be manipulated. The seventh still holds, never traded or negated. Sabbath ain't a fad, it's a covenant sacred. They flipped the script, but the command, he engraved it. Echoes from Sinai can't be manipulated. The seventh still holds, never traded or negated.
Shabbat Shalom, Israel. Man, I hope everybody is having a blessed day and has strived to enter into the Most High Yah's set-apart day of rest. Man, the title of today's message is Keeping the Sabbath Relevant Today. Man, I don't care whether it is Orthodox Catholicism, Orthodox Christianity, secular Catholicism, secular Christianity. Man, when it comes to this topic, people have been deceived. And these are places that you never hear the Most High Yahweh's name. They never call him by name. And man, there is this, we're doing what God wants us to do. But here's the reality. If they've never told you who God is, or who is the Most High God, who is the Most High Yahweh, and we have people out here that are falling to the deception of secular religion, Orthodox religion, and they think that they're being obedient, but never reading the word to understand in fullness of who the Most High Yah is. This makes it very easy for people to deceive you. And today we're going to talk about that because, there are people that use, all kind of deceptive and manipulative tactics to try to get you away from keeping the Shabbat, keeping the Sabbath, keeping the commandments. And these are people that will tell you that we keep the commandments as well. But at the same time, what you find out is they've given you an alternative. Religion gives you an alternative, something more convenient. Like you think about, let me give you an example. Here we are, about to go into the Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread. Man, the word, strictly gives us guidance for what we're supposed to do for the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But what has Orthodox and secular Christianity and Catholicism given you? They've given you Easter and they've given you communion. And they've just completely rejected what the word says. And people fall for this, hook, line, and sinker. They take the bait. So today we're going to talk about is keeping the Sabbath relevant today. Shabbat Shalom, family. Today we must confront a matter that has shaped the practice of millions of believers, but is rarely examined closely against the word of Yahweh. The confusion surrounding the Sabbath. Many people have been taught from childhood that Sunday is the Sabbath day, and that gathering for worship on this day fulfills the commandment given by the Most High Yah. Yet when we carefully search the scriptures, we find that the Sabbath established by Yahweh has never changed, moved, or been replaced. The seventh day was sanctified from the beginning of creation, and it was later commanded to Israel as an everlasting sign of obedience and covenant. Over time, the religion of Christianity introduced a different tradition. Sunday observance, often supported by selective interpretations of the writings of Paul. In doing so, many believers were led to believe that obedience to the commandments was unnecessary or the law had somehow been abolished. However, there is a clear difference between tradition and obedience. Keeping Sunday requires little sacrifice because it aligns with the rhythm of the world. But keeping the true Shabbat requires intentional obedience, discipline, and submission to the instructions of Yahweh. Today's teaching invites us to examine Scripture carefully and discern the difference between inherited tradition and the commandments given by the Creator. You know, man, you may have a family member that swears up and down that they study the Bible. But I want you to understand, man, the instruction that the Most High Yah gave us was to keep the Sabbath HaKodesh, was to keep the Shabbat holy. And there's nowhere in the word, nowhere in the fullness of the scriptures, the scrolls, the Bible, where the Most High Yah ever goes against that. You know, man, people have to understand that your salvation is on the line. You have people out here deceived into thinking that you can simply say some repeat after me phrase and you've automatically arrived at salvation. You've automatically inherited the kingdom. And these people have been sold a bad bill of goods.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave like everyone else. You were born into bondage. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Why are we here today? Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy, to keep it HaKodesh. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Master thy Yahweh. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heaven and earth and the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. You know, if you would like to support the ministry, you can do so by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. If you subscribe, turn your notifications on. If you would like to give an offering or donate, the link is in the description. Man, we must understand that since Hasatan only has dominion on earth, this is where the deception, the manipulation, and the trickery will be the greatest. Man, when we look closely at 1 John chapter 3, verse 7, it gives us warning. Gives us an indicator that deception will be great. And it starts off by saying, little children, believers, dear one, do not let anyone lead you astray. The one who practices righteousness, not religion, it says righteousness. The one who strives to live constantly honorable life in private as well as in public, and to conform to Yahweh's precepts is righteous, just as he is righteous. So when you think about it, the fallen state of mankind is not conformed to the commandments, the instructions, the precepts of the Most High, the law of the Most High. And that's the reason why mankind is fallen. Man, for the called out assembly, man, for the remnant, for Yah's people, man, we have to make sure that our lives are conformed to the word. See, here's the problem with Sunday. You know, there's so much deception. You have people thinking that your church building is the storehouse. And nobody ever breaks that down in fullness. So you go on consistently getting deceived, and further deceived, and you're just, experiencing emotionalism and entertainment when you go to Sunday worship. What does the Most High Yah say about the Sabbath? Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 through 4. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, he didn't say the sixth, he didn't say the first. And on the seventh day, Yahweh ended his works which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he made, giving us an example. The Most High Yah even gives us an example. And Yahweh blessed the seventh day and sanctified it. The seventh day is blessed and it's set apart, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Yahweh created and made. These are the generations of the heaven and of the earth when they were created. And in that day, the Master Yahweh made the earth and the heavens. Then we have Exodus 31:13. Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, verily, my Sabbaths you shall keep. Okay, we'll break down a little bit later, the different Sabbaths. For it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Master that doeth sanctify you. So it's a sign of your obedience. It's a sign of your righteousness. It's a sign that, set apartness is upon you. Exodus 31:16. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. Man, the word Sabbath, Strong's number Hebrew 7676, Sabbath, the seventh day, the seventh year, the seventh day of rest, day no work is permitted. Now, when we look at what is perpetual covenant, perpetual, because what we see today, perpetual in people's mind must mean that it can change. It's allowed to change, that it must change. We're required to change it. No, perpetual is an adjective meaning never ending or changing, occurring repeatedly, so frequent as to seem endless and uninterrupted. I want to address the elephant in the room. Man, why is it that Orthodox, secular Christianity, Catholicism, different denominations, non-denomination, why do they reject the seventh-day Sabbath? Why do they reject the rest that the Most High Yah has already deemed HaKodesh? Why don't they want to keep it HaKodesh? Hebrews chapter 4, verse 1 through 11. Let us therefore fear, lest a promise being left of us entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. So you're falling short of entering into the rest. For unto us was the gospel preached, as well as unto them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. For we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he spoke in a certain place of the seventh day on the wise. And Yahweh did rest the seventh day from all his works. And in this place again, if they shall enter into my rest, seeing therefore it remaineth that some must enter into that rest. Who is some? That's Israel. That's the body. That's the called out assembly. Man, that is the congregation, the assembly of the Israelites. And they too, whom it was first preached, entered not in because of unbelief. What causes them not to obey the commandment? Unbelief. Again, he limiteth a certain day. He doesn't allow for any day. Again, he limiteth a certain day, saying in David, today, after so long a time, as it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. Most High Yah is giving you an instruction. Don't harden your hearts so as to fall short and reject the day that he limited. For if Yahshua had given them rest, because you have people that say, well, we rest in Messiah, we rest in JC. And that is just a rejection of the commandment. For if Yahshua had given them rest, then would he not have afterward have spoken of another day? There remaineth therefore a rest to the people of Yahweh. For he that is entered into his rest, he has also ceased from his own works. So you got to understand, for the people that are saying, well, we rest in Messiah. Well, the book gives specific instructions of working 6 days, resting on the Sabbath. So when do you work? That would make you a sloth. He also has ceased from his own works, as Yahweh did from his. Let us labor. Let us work. Let us strive, therefore, to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. So there is a passage describing what unbelief and rejecting the day of rest looks like and why they did it. The Most High is saying, let us work, let us labor, therefore to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of righteousness, of hakodeshness, of purity, of obedience. No, it says unbelief. You know, man, this is a teaching that I've done. You know, I at least try to do this at least once a year, because you never know who has came into the fold. You never know where their understanding is. And this is something when you first come into the knowledge of the truth. And I'm not talking about religious, their truth. No, I'm talking about the truth of the Most High Yah. When you experience that, you know, this is the first thing that you're going to experience some set apartness on. Because everything that religion gives you is of this world, is of idolatry, of disobedience. You know, we got to understand. So let's see what Yahshua kept. Since every Christian, Catholic, believes they're following the Messiah. John chapter 6, verse 38. Okay, so we have to debunk the idea that Hamashiach came to do or create something completely different that was not in alignment with the will of the Most High Yah. But you have people out there that will try to deceive you to think, well, the Messiah, JC, came and gave us something different. John chapter 6, verse 38. For I came down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him that sent me. I'm not here for my own, desires. I'm here to fulfill the desires. I'm here to carry out. I'm here to labor in the work and the instructions of the Most High Yah. So you have people out there that, like I said, will tell you, well, it's because of JC that we no longer have to do that. Stop. Flag on the play. Flag on the play. See, this is where people, I want you to understand, man, people, Orthodox, secular, Christians and Catholics, whatever denomination, non-denomination, they truly do not read their Bible and have the Ruach HaKodesh, like reading the word of the Most High Yah without having the anointing, without having, the Ruach upon you, man, it's going to cause you to go all over the place. You have to understand, man, you have to be able to put this thing together and not make this word fight against each other. The Most High is not the author of confusion. When you have the Ruach of the Most High Yah, this is simple. You got to think, okay, here's the Ruach HaKodesh of the Most High. Is that Ruach going to tell one man to do one thing, tell another man to do another thing, and both are counted as righteous, but they're in opposition to one another? No. For I came down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him that sent me. Man, he came down to be obedient. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21. For even hereunto were you called, because Hamashiach also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps. So if the Messiah, Yahshua, came down from heaven, not to do his own desires, but to fulfill the will of the Most High and to carry it out, leaving us an example, how do people fall so far from that? Deception enters in. Matthew chapter 5, verse 17. Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. He don't even want you to put that in your mind. Why do you have people out there that are telling you that he came to do this, that he is the reason why the law is destroyed? That's not what Hamashiach said. He wanted you to know. He starts the verse off with, think not I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I come not to destroy, but to fulfill. He comes to leave us an example of what Hakodeshness look like, of what faithfulness looks like, what obedience looks like. The Messiah is the only perfect one that knew no sin. But yet, the deception has people doing everything. Like, where give you an example. Where did Messiah say anywhere in the word, or where is it ever written that you're supposed to be keeping Easter and you got to have some deacon in some Easter bunny outfit? You're putting candy and eggs. You're doing all of this stuff that's rooted in idolatry. Where does this come from? But guess what? People are deceived and they love this stuff. And it makes me no difference. You do what you want to do. But at the end of the day, you have to be honest with yourself and say, hey, some of this stuff that you have been taught and some of this stuff that you grew up doing and that they called holy was actually profane, was actually very wicked, was actually disobedience. You got people out there doing all kind of stuff and you can't find it nowhere in the book. And the people that are deceiving folk with these teachings are out here playing fast and loose with the text. Matthew chapter 12, verse 8. For the Son of Man is Lord or master. The word Lord in etymology means master, even of the Sabbath day. So when you think about this, the Pharisees, who were hypocrites, who were the hypocrites of the hypocrites, constantly called hypocrites. Man, the Pharisees were the ones always poking at Hamashiach when they should have been following Hamashiach because he was HaKodesh. They were the one trying to call him out for being in violation. But this is telling you, for the Son of Man, he's the master of the Shabbat. So there ain't nothing you can tell Hamashiach about the Shabbat that he doesn't already know and that he's not already doing, because he's the one leaving us an example. The Pharisees aren't the one leaving us an example, but we have more people operating like Pharisees today in their so-called belief than actually following Yeshua. Mark chapter 2, verse 27 through 28. And he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for man. You got to think, man, we live in a society that doesn't want you to rest. This society wants you to go 7 days a week, 24/7. But that's against the will of the Most High. And not man for the Sabbath. Man, the Most High Yah created this to give you an opportunity to rest. And you have people that fight that rest, constantly talking about, I'm tired, I'm worn out. You know, I've done videos talking about how hustle culture, you know, there's this hustle to be wealthy, hustle to be rich, hustle to do this, hustle to every day. You got to hustle 7 days a week. Wait a minute. These are people that call themselves Christians that are openly telling you to violate the will of the Most High. And this is why they're suffering from some of the craziest health issues. This is why you're deteriorating so fast. You have to understand, man, your body needs rest. The Most High himself, when we look at this thing, the Most High himself tells us that he rests. When we get to the prophets, you can see in the word that they were obedient in keeping the Shabbat, the seventh day. When you get to Hamashiach, you'll see that he kept it. When it comes to the disciples, they kept it. But yet you have people out here telling you, nope, you don't need to do that. You know, men and women, when you try to keep the Shabbat for the first time, you're going to realize, oh man, this is something different, but it's obedient. You're going to realize that you got people out here that call themselves HaKodesh, call themselves holy, call themselves set apart. But one thing they don't want you to do is to obey the word of the Most High. Luke chapter 4, verse 16, and he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. He was reasoning with them and teaching them on the Shabbat. This is the place of worship. So when you get to the New Testament or the renewed covenant, man, you have people that are deceived by the word church and they never understand what the church is. And the church is the people. The church is the called out assembly. The church is the congregation of the Israelites. The church is the people of the Most High Yahweh. It's not a building. You go all the way through the book, halfway through the book, and it's temple and synagogue. It's the places of worship. Paul's going into the temples and synagogues, reasoning with the Gentiles. Hamashiach, reasoning with the called out assembly. But yet they fooled you into thinking that the church, it is the building. Well, we got to go to the church building. Deception. Man, what is the judgment, punishment for violating the Sabbath? Man, when we look at what sin is, the Most High Yah didn't make this thing difficult. He says sin is the transgression of the law. Your sin is the violating of the law. He gave you instructions. As they went on, as they, were coming out of Egypt, the Most High Yah gave you different instructions, different laws, that we are not supposed to violate if we are obedient, if we are believers. Man, Exodus chapter 31, verse 14 through 15. Man, you have people that have been led to perpetually sin by violating the Shabbat every week. And you realize, and by doing this is why, man, they lack understanding. Because some of the basic instructions they reject. It don't matter how spiritual you think you are, no matter how devout, how anointed you think you are, man, the Hakodesh, the Ruach is not in these places. It's not in these places where the deception is going on. Exodus 31, 14 through 15. You shall keep the Sabbath, therefore it is Hakodesh unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days may work be done, but the 7th day is the Shabbat of rest, holy to the master. Whoso do any work on the Shabbat, he shall surely be put to death. You see, when Hamashiach was asked, what shall we do? The instruction was, hey, stone him. Put him to death. See, people think because the judgment of the Most High Yah is not executed expediently, the heart of man continues to sin. You think you've gotten away with it. You think the Most High Yah is pleased with you, but you have to understand we're all going to have to appear before the judgment seat of Hamashiach. And he's not letting anything slide. It's either you repented, not simply asked for forgiveness and kept on violating it. No, repented, done a 180. To turn from. To turn from your wickedness and be restored and turn to righteousness. To turn to obedience. When it comes to one of the most deceptive teachings that always comes up, I don't give a dang whether you watch any Christian Catholic video out there on social media or YouTube. What they're going to do is they're going to use one particular verse according to Paul to justify why they don't have to keep the Sabbath. Everything that they're going to do is to justify why they don't have to do something, not why they should be doing something. Today, I'm going to give you examples of showing you, okay, the Most High Yah kept it, Hamashiach kept it, and you're going to see today that Paul kept the 7-day Sabbath. Paul wasn't out here, keeping the Shabbat and telling everybody else to do your own thing. No, that's not. But that's why people love the teachings of Paul, because they can play fast and loose with them while rejecting the rest of the book. This is the verse that Christians, Catholicism, love to use in defense for not keeping the Shabbat. Colossians chapter 2, verse 16. Therefore, let no one judge you in regard to the food and drink, or in regard to the observance of a festival or a new moon or Sabbath day. Christians out here, Catholics out here, when the last day you've kept a biblical festival, a biblical feast, outlined in Leviticus 23 that the Messiah himself kept, according to the book? Or did you take it and give a spinoff to it, rooted in idolatry? When is the last time Christians or Catholics kept a new moon? You got most average Christian or Catholic don't even know what a new moon is. And if they do know what a new moon is, I guarantee you they don't have obedience to it. Or a Sabbath day. So they take this, it's like Christians use, a lot of them that don't want to obey, they say the Bible say don't judge. So they only give you part of it. Therefore, let no one judge you in regard to the food and drink, or in regard to the observance of a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath day. You got to understand, Israel is given some dietary instructions. Israel is given some instructions for drinking. Israel is given some instructions for feast days. Israel is given some instructions for keeping of the new moon, as well as the Shabbat, to keep every individual HaKodesh. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1. This is Paul right here. This is Shaul. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Hamashiach. So Paul is letting you know, we first have Hamashiach letting us know that, man, I'm not here to change up the game. I'm not here to do my own thing. I'm here to do the will of the Most High Yahweh. I'm here to do the will of the one who sent me. And then you've got Shaul. Because people use Paul to say, well, Paul did something different. Paul ain't never say it. Or Paul wasn't, he was a first day keeper. Wait a minute. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Hamashiach. So we're going to find out today, Paul didn't do anything different than what the Messiah was doing. If the Messiah was keeping the Shabbat, Paul was keeping the Shabbat. Acts chapter 17, verse 2, let's look at it. And Paul, as his manner was, went unto them, and 3 Sabbath days reasoned with them out of the scriptures. 3 Sabbath days. He was there for 3 weeks. He was there for 3 weeks reasoning with them out of the scriptures, out of the scrolls, on the 7th day. Acts chapter 13, verse 14 through 15. But when they departed from Persia, they came into Antioch. And we're going to talk about these heathens, these Gentiles at Antioch in Pisidia, and went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and sat down. And after reading the law and the prophets, the rulers of the synagogue sent to them, saying, You men and brethren, if you have any word of exhortation for the people, say on. So they was looking, these folk was looking for Shaul, for Paul, to come in on the Shabbat, on the Sabbath, to reason with them, to teach them any exhortation. Acts chapter 13, verse 14 through 42, verse 42 through 44. And when the Yahudim were gone out of the synagogue, the Gentiles besought that these words might be preached to them the next Shabbat. Now when the congregation was broken up, many of the Yahudim and religious proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas, who, speaking to them, persuaded them to continue in the grace of Yahweh. And the next Sabbath day came, almost the whole city together to hear the word of Yahweh. A whole city came together to hear Shaul teaching on the Shabbat. Not the first day, not the 6th day, not the 5th day. Acts chapter 18, verse 4. And he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath. So where do these folk get that Paul was doing something different? Where did these folk get that Messiah was doing something different? It said, and persuaded the Jews and the Greeks. See, Shaul was in the land of the Gentiles. Paul was in the land of the Gentiles, where people had all kind of pagan and heathen worship, idolatrous practices. So he was in there for their salvation's sake, teaching them the truth. Man, I want you to understand why Gentiles will reject the 7th-day Sabbath. Luke chapter 21, verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and they shall be led away into captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. Who's the one trodden down Jerusalem? Gentiles. This is a HaKodesh city. Who the ones trampling and trodden it down? Gentiles. Until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Right now, we are in the time of the Gentiles. You got to understand, this system is backed by heathens. This system that we live in is backed by heathens. It's backed by Gentiles. Christianity, it's a Gentile religion. Man, the word Gentile, Strong's number Greek word 1484, other nations, pagan, heathen. of the Gentiles, Strong's number, Hebrew word, 1471, a heathen. A heathen, by definition, is an unbeliever. So you see, early on when I read, we're not supposed to fall into that same sort of unbelief. A heathen is an unbeliever. You have to understand that when you have people telling you the word is very clear, when you got the Ruach and you're living Hakodesh and you can understand it, you have to understand that people that oftentimes are religious that are rejecting the instructions of the Most High Yah, they're unbelievers. Lying lips. They lips say they believe, but when you don't believe what's in the book, we got a problem. Heathen and unbeliever, nations or individuals who did not worship the Yahweh of Israel, an idolatrous people. Daniel chapter 7 verse 25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and to think to change times and laws. You got to understand, the law that the Most High Yah gave us is Hakodesh. It's holy, it's perfect. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, and times until the dividing of times. We are in the time of the Gentiles. So you're not going to get these Gentiles to agree that on a widespread that we should be keeping the Shabbat, because the Gentiles are heathens. They're an idolatrous people. They don't believe, they don't worship the Most High Yah of Israel. And this is one reason why they don't call him by name. Man, the Gentiles have been deceivers since the beginning, and this is why Christianity is a Gentile-based religion. Same thing with Catholicism. 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 41 through 50. So you saw when they was at Antioch, we got to get some understanding of, man, what happened at Antioch. Antioch has now issued a civil decree that all nations in its empire should abandon their own customs and become one people. They're trying to push this across. They're trying to push just like they was doing it right here in 1 Maccabees. Man, you have still today, they're trying to push this all across the globe. All the Gentiles and even many of the Israelites submitted to this decree. So the Israelites started to reject the ways of the Most High Yah. It wasn't nothing new to these Gentiles. They adopted the official pagan religion, offered sacrifices to idols, and no longer observed the Sabbath. So you got to understand, King Antiochus, this is well before Constantine issued a new civil day, a new civil decree. This is in the Maccabean period. The king also sent messengers with the decree to Jerusalem. So these are the Gentiles. Antiochus was a Gentile, one of the ones that's helping trotting down Jerusalem. He sent messengers with the decree to Jerusalem and all the towns of Judea, ordering the people to follow customs that were foreign to the country. So keeping the Shabbat is native with Jerusalem. Here comes Antiochus sending out messengers, say you're not going to keep these commandments, these instructions that originate from your country. He ordered them not to offer burnt offerings. He's basically sending these messengers out to tell them to go against the word of the Most High. He ordered them not to offer burnt offerings, grain offerings, or wine offerings in the temple. They didn't say church. It says temple. And commanded them to treat Sabbaths and feast days as ordinary work days. So he's telling them, according to my decree, you no longer have to obey this. Treat it like a normal work day. They were even ordered to defile the temple and the Hakodesh things in it. They were commanded to build pagan altars, temples and shrines, and to sacrifice pigs and other unclean animals there. They were forbidden to circumcise their sons and were required to make themselves ritually unclean in every way they could. See, the Most High Yah is giving you instructions for purity, how to be clean. It's these heathens, it's these Gentiles, it's these pagans that want you to be unclean, so that they would forget the law which Yahweh had given through Moses and would disobey all its commands. The penalty for disobeying King Antiochus' decree was death. You have to understand, this is when the word says, man, do not worry about him that can destroy the flesh. He's talking about people like Antiochus. See, the judgment is death either way. Either you're going to give in out of fear of death, or you're going to obey, and have everlasting life. But this is the ultimatum they was giving people. But this is where the deception start. You ain't gonna never hear this, man. There's not one Sunday sun worshiping church out here that will ever teach you this, because it goes against the foundation of which they have built, which they're deceiving people. Keeping Sunday is not hard, but keeping the Shabbat requires obedience. People will go to an hour and a half service, a place of worship on a day that ain't commanded because it's convenient. Things you can do things you can't do on the Sabbath: working, business transaction, buying, selling, cooking, starting, lighting fires, etc. Everything I just listed is perfectly fine to do on Sunday according to Christianity and Catholicism. Keeping Sunday requires no obedience at all because it's convenient. John chapter 2, verse 13 through 17. Now the Passover of the Yahudim was approaching. So Yeshua went up to Jerusalem, and in the temple enclosure he found the people who were selling oxen and sheep and doves and the money changers sitting at their tables. I want you to understand this Passover has a significance behind it. And there's a reason why, man, he casted them out. He made a whip of cords and drove them out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen, and he scattered the coins of the money changer and overturned their tables. Then those who sold the doves, he said, take these things away. Stop making my Father's house a place of commerce. Man, that is what your average Sunday sun worshiping church is. They sell pork chop plates, they sell desserts, they sell peppermints, they sell everything. They sell tickets they sell wolf tickets to deceive you. You can buy sausages, biscuits, coffee. They got Starbucks. It's a place of commerce. Stop making my Father's house a place of commerce. His disciples remembered that it is written in the scriptures, zeal, love, concern for your house and its honor will consume me. Man, you have to understand that the first and last day of Passover is considered a high Sabbath, or a festival Sabbath, Yom Tov, which functions as a day of rest. While distinct from the weekly Saturday Shabbat or Sabbath, the first day of Passover prohibits work similar to the Shabbat and requires special observance, acting as an annual holy day. The restriction: on the first day and the seventh day of Passover, no servile work is allowed, similar to the weekly Sabbath. This is the Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread. Oh, you don't believe me? You think I'm just shooting from the hip? Well, let's see what Leviticus 23, verse 4 through 8 says. These are the appointed feasts of the master, the holy convocations, which you shall proclaim at the appointed times for them. Not when you want to, at the appointed times. And the first month of the 14th day, the month at twilight, is the master's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread to the master. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall not do any ordinary work. Man, this is the Passover. But you shall present a food offering. So you got to think Antiochus was like, nope, you ain't doing none of that no more. You're going to treat this like a normal work day. Teaching you to violate the instructions of the Most High. But you shall present a food offering to the master for 7 days. On the 7th day is a holy convocation. You shall not do any ordinary work. Like I was telling you, the first and the last day of these feasts are high Shabbats. But this is in Christianity or Catholicism, you ain't gonna never get it when it comes to the feast day. They'll read about tabernacles, they'll read about Passover, but then they're gonna have you out there with them Easter eggs, on a day that ain't commanded. Have somebody out there with an Easter bunny suit. They're gonna have all the church wives, all the temple wives building Easter egg baskets. They putting all kind of stuff in these eggs. Money, the golden egg got money in it. So the question remains, will you obey the lawlessness of man or obey the Most High Yah? Acts chapter 5, verse 29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered. Man, when we look, the righteous all throughout the book were keepers of the 7-day Sabbath. They never gave you an example of first. Like when you look at your calendar, it's a reason why the first day on the weekly calendar or the weekly schedule, the first day of the week is Sunday, and the last day is Saturday. You can look in your dictionary. and look up these days. It'll tell you that when you look at Saturday, it will tell you it's the seventh day. When you look at Sunday, it will tell you it's the first day. And is the Christian analog to the Yahudim Sabbath. Meaning it's similar to, not the same, similar to. Man, as we conclude, it's important to remember that the issue is not merely about which day people gather to worship, but about obedience to the word of the Most High Yahweh. That's the point. Obedience. Man, where you have no obedience to the word of the Most High Yah, you're going to find people doing whatever it is they want, whatever is convenient, whatever feels good. Man, Yahweh established the Sabbath day at creation and commanded it as a holy day of rest long before any religious institutions existed. When tradition replaced commandments, believers can unknowingly follow practices that were never authorized by the Creator. The teachings of Paul, when read in context, do not abolish the law of Yahweh, but continually affirm that righteousness comes through faithful obedience and a transformed heart. The challenge for believers today is to move beyond inherited doctrines and return to what the scriptures actually teach. Obedience often requires swimming against the current of popular religion, but it is through obedience that our devotion to Yahweh is demonstrated. Keeping the Shabbat is not about legalism, because that's another argument. Oh, you being wait a minute. Is Messiah, when we're all sitting at the judgment seat of a Mashiach, is he not going to be a legalist? If you haven't turned from this stuff, you sit up here talking about you saved, but you still live the life that was in rebellion to his instructions. Yes, that same law is what's going to hold you accountable. Didn't Hamashiach say, repent for the kingdom of heaven is at hand? That's what you stand to lose. It is about honoring what the Creator has already declared Hakodesh. When we align ourselves with his commandments rather than human traditions, we step into a deeper expression of faith, discipline, and covenant loyalty to the Most High. I told you, man, keeping Sunday does not require any obedience. Man, you can doggone, go get your entertainment. They didn't put this Disney on Ice concert on, the grand performance. Then you can go out to eat. You can go do your grocery shopping. You go catch a movie, and ain't nobody going to say nothing. They going to look at you according to their religion as Hakodesh, but the reality is you far from Hakodesh. You've been deceived. But when it comes to this Shabbat, you're going to realize that they strategically put a lot of stuff. They put a lot of stuff, on the Shabbat, so you constantly, will reject it. But it's not until you got a transformed heart that you say, man, it ain't nothing out in this world going on the Shabbat that it is worth me not obtaining or losing my salvation. Something else they teach, you can lose your salvation. Don't the book say those that endure to the end? So you're going to have to endure some stuff till the end to be saved. But they don't tell you that. They give you this repeat after me. You got to think what goes on, like today's, what's going on. Man, you got all kind of different sporting events. Men out there, like you gonna risk your salvation for going to a college football game. All your little children's activities, they be on Saturdays. And the Most High Yah is he gonna make it real simple. He already gave you the instruction. The choice is yours. You got free will to choose as you please. But as you choose, just know there's gonna be some consequences and repercussions if you have rebelled against the Most High. You got sales going on in the outlets and all kind of stores. This is when they're going to do it. They're going to do it on Shabbat. You got to get there before 5 p.m. on Saturday. We got a sale. It's one day. It starts on Saturday. 75% off. You got to think, like, if you don't have a transformed heart, you're no match for what this world is offering. You're going to fall for the deception every time because your heart is really not with the Most High. Friday, you have to think, man, we are commanded. In Genesis, it tells us, when the day starts. So we factor that into the Shabbat, and you got Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Men out here, there ain't no clubbing on you shouldn't be in no clubs no way. These places ain't Hakodesh, but you can't do those things and keep the Shabbat. You're gonna be in violation. You out here, men out here, you wonder why You're constantly struggling to find and a shy find a wife. Women out here, you wonder why you struggling to find a man, because the days that you choose to go out and try to do this, man, you in violation of the Torah. You in violation of the instructions of the Most High. You out here trying to fornicate on a day and time, an appointed time that's supposed to be Hakodesh. You didn't took a young man or young lady out, and you wonder why these relationships always end up failing. Your heart was never set on obeying the word of the Most High. Parents out here, I understand. You're gonna have to tell your children, hey, I can't come to that. I can't support that. And if you really are about the obedience and reinforcing righteousness in your household, you will stand flat-footed and say, hey, we're not doing that anymore. I'm not saying that your children can't participate in activity, but you have to let these heathens out here that are running some of these programs know, yeah, my child can participate, but when it comes to the Shabbat, don't be calling and asking, can my child come and we need them? No, because there's salvation on the line. I guarantee you, parents, here's what you have, man. You have parents that keep the Shabbat and teach their children according to righteousness, man. Their children grow up and carry on that same righteousness. But parents that don't do it, man, them children grow up and just go out there and live lawless because that's what they've been taught. Parents are the first line of defense. A booty call ain't worth your salvation. I don't care how bad you trying to scratch that itch. I tell you, man, when I was living a life of fornication, my Fridays and Saturdays was like, where the hoes at? And I tell you, I was lost as I ever could have been. And I'm thankful that the Most High, opened my eyes to see and put his ruach upon me. Man, there's testimonies of pastors out there that have converted their synagogues or temples. Most people commonly refer to it as church, but they converted their temples and synagogues, who were originally following 100% the ways of Christianity and keeping Sunday. Man, they said as soon as they converted their church and made the change in their church to start keeping the Shabbat on Saturday, man, they lost 75% of their congregation. Faced a lot of persecution. You're not gonna face no persecution for keeping Sunday, because it ain't no commandment. But for keeping the Shabbat, yeah, you're gonna face persecution. Okay, let's look at it. If your family's gonna have a cookout, when they gonna do it? They're gonna do it on Saturday. When the food gonna be ready? Food gonna be ready at 12. And this is how they're gonna get you to violate it. Hey, you can come and just grab a little plate, but on your way, can you stop by Walmart and grab some cup? We're not supposed to be calling other people to work. We're supposed to be shutting down commerce. But unbelievers don't care nothing about righteousness. Why? Because, man, their faith is based upon religion, not the righteousness of the book. Man, I want people to understand that these people that are deceiving you every Sunday, man, they don't care. I don't give a dang how they sit up and put on and put on. They do not care about your salvation. I'm telling you, these people are going to ensure that the match is lit on them gasoline draws, and them draws gonna get hot. When you had to sit in front of the judgment seat of a Mashiach, and he's sitting up here telling you about yourself, and you didn't say it just like the people, Lord, Lord, haven't we prophesied in your name? Haven't we cast it out? Haven't we done all these things? Man, part ways from me. You ain't never know me. How do you claim to know the Mashiach of the book, but yet you doing something that he told you that you weren't supposed to be doing? How do you hate the same law that a Mashiach said, man, I ain't come to destroy the law or the prophets. I didn't come to do that. I come to leave you an example. How did people fall so far away from the example of Hamashiach and even Shaul? I gave you numerous passages today showing you that Shaul was a keeper of the Sabbath. You didn't see Shaul saying, well, I rest in Messiah, so I no longer have to keep the Shabbat. You don't hear Paul saying, well, the Christian Sabbath is first day. You don't hear Shaul saying that. I'm telling you, man, you better get it. Like, if your flesh is comfortable, if it's convenient for your flesh, I can guarantee you it ain't righteous. I can guarantee you it ain't righteous. And don't mess around and lose your salvation or not not obtain eternal life because you want to go to soccer game, basketball game, football game, volleyball game, softball games, swimming matches, tournaments, because you want to go to Sam's Club and catch a sale. Tell you, man, I care more about your salvation than the people that's robbing you blind, that's deceiving you. I'm giving you the straight. Everything I gave you today was straight up book. Straight up book. But this is the thing. People in the religion, I don't give a dang what kind of degree you got, theology, seminary, cemetery, Roman Greek mythology, it don't matter. You got people that comprehend what's in this book and their heart is hard towards it. They flat out reject it. And I'm telling you today, if you don't turn from it, man, you're going to Sheol. You don't get rewarded for disobedience. The Most High Yah is not rewarding nobody for disobedience. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That was the message of Hamashiach. Hey, but some of these people, just like Jezebel, they're going to be given the opportunity to repent. They will hear this message, but just like Jezebel, they will choose not to repent. Given the opportunity to get yourself out of hot water and gasoline draws, and you know what? You're going to flat out reject it. Flat out reject it for a little kid birthday party. You out in doggone Party City, all these places trying to get a cake and stuff, and I'm telling you, it ain't going to be good. That's why the words say, man, only a remnant will be saved. Only a remnant. That ain't everybody. What is Hasatan trying to push on everybody? Christianity and Catholicism. They want you to fit into one of their boxes that at some point you look at their doctrine, it's going to rebel against the Most High. And the Most High Yah made it very clear. I took you today from the front of the book to the back of the book. We went from the prophets to Messiah to the epistles or letters of Shaul, and I showed you. Man, they was all Shabbat, Sabbath day keepers. Never told you to do anything different. Paul was telling, as the people that he was talking to in the land of the Gentiles, hey, follow me as I follow Hamashiach. I'm keeping this thing. Hamashiach kept it. The Most High Yah kept it. So don't let these people around you, these unbelievers around you, don't let them judge you. You can't have unrighteous people judging the righteous. They have no idea of what they should be doing. That's what he was saying. Man, I hope I've said something today to truly edify you, open your eyes, and get you on the right path. Because we have far too many people out here that are believing things, that believe that they are children of God, and they are children of a God or multiple gods, but they ain't children of the Most High. Because when you look at their lifestyle, you don't see obedience. You don't find the stuff that they do, and you don't find it in the book. And that's a problem. Most High Yah, all throughout the book, is giving you an example of how to live HaKodesh and what the judgments and punishments are for not striving for righteousness. Now, once again, this is Closer to Yah Ministries, kicking that thing, gun barrel straight. Shabbat Shalom, Israel. Bow.